Hello and welcome into Listen Up. I'm Joey Trincali here with Alex Como. We've got a big show, so let's get right to it. Oklahoma. No, just kidding. It's the Masters. It's my favorite time of the year. Maybe not favorite, but it's a great event. You don't love it as much as I do, but that's why we're talking about it first, because I wrote the script this week. So if you've got any problems, you can contact me. All right, let's talk about the Masters. Tiger Woods. He's finally back to world number one. Do you take Tiger? Or you take the field for the Masters this weekend?
Well, we talk about it seemingly every year, and every
It's
year,
true.
every year,
Even when he's not playing,
I take Tiger. And year after year, it hasn't paid off for a couple of years now. I enjoy golf infinitely more when Tiger is good versus when it's, some rando. So I really would like to see Tiger win it, but because every year I say that he'll win it and then proceeds to not win it, the field. Sure, give me the field. I love Rory McIlroy, Adam Scott, Lee Westwood. They're kind of boring, but who knows? Maybe they'll actually win. And when you talk about the Masters, probably more than any other major, that's the one where you can see the truly out of left field people. Because when Tiger and Phil were dominating, it was just back and forth. Tiger, Phil, Tiger, Phil. When it hasn't been the two of them, Charles Schwartzel, Angel Cabrera, Trevor Immelman, and Zach Johnson have been your champions, with Mike Ware thrown in there in 2003 as the lone bump for good measure. So when it's not one of these two, really truly dominant players, it really has the potential to be someone random. So if I had to pick Tiger or the field, why not? As much as I'd love to see Tiger, someone else, Angel. Let's get in there.
that's interesting. It's tough for me to go with Tiger just because not only talking about how he hasn't won in 8 years now, I believe, the Masters. On top of that, it's such a deep field, it feels like, and already we've seen McIlroy is doing all right today. We're kind of talking in the middle of the Masters at the moment. So McIlroy is up there. Westwood is doing fine. You see Keegan Bradley is around there. Phil Mickelson's had a round all over the place, but he's still in contention. But the thing is, Tiger Woods shot a 2 under today, which for him is perfect. The leader at the moment is at 6 under. He doesn't need to be crushing on the first day. He just needs to be around. And because of that, I'm sort of leaning towards Tiger. When he's hit a 2 under in the first round, he's won 3 out of the 5 Masters that he's done that in. That's a pretty incredible stat. Granted, one that might be due more to coincidence than anything else, but I don't know. I think it also depends on how the conditions turn out. Because if it gets harder on that course, it favors Tiger, because then his super strength and his super craziness that he brings to golf that a lot of these other guys just don't have, that goes on showcase. If the scores get crazy and everyone's hitting really well, I think that puts him at a disadvantage. So we'll see. I'm hopeful that we get a Rory Tiger pairing on the final day. That would be my dream Sunday matchup. I would certainly love that, and I think it could get really interesting. And we saw Freddie Couples today. Freddie is in there. That's what I was actually talking to our producer Allie before the show today about how golf is so fun and so unique, because you've got a 14-year-old kid from China who's in it. You got 50-year-olds in there, and everyone has the same amount of really chance to win the Masters. It's an incredible event, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you mentioned Tiger having this hot start to this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it before. It's certainly happened before in majors, and then he's petered off. He's not the closer that he used to be with the Sunday red and everything. So it's definitely a reason to feel a little reservation, but he's gotten some wins early in the season. This isn't like years past where he's just been so beaten down, and we just want to believe that he'll elevate his game as soon as he steps foot on Augusta, which is very much possible, I think, now that he's had a few wins to kind of buoy his spirits a little bit. I think that's important. And when you talk about it, I think there was a quote out there today from Phil Mickelson, who said at one point, he asked Tiger, who just hit a 3-wood, and it went way farther than his driver. He said, do your 3-woods always go that far? Farther than my driver? He says, no, most times farther. And that's the reason why you like Tiger Woods. I enjoy he's the only thing that really keeps me invested in golf. So it's an emotional favorite. I still think the field will end up winning, but if he can make it interesting, all the better.
That's true. You don't need him to win.
Yeah.
You just need to be around.
That's right.
If you're golf.
That would keep me watching. All right, moving on. We just had just a killer NCAA Championship. Louisville coming out on top over Michigan. Would you say that this is one of the best championship games we've had in recent memory? And what were some of your favorite parts?
I would say that the first half was probably one of the best halves we've had in the last decade. The second half sort of teetered off a little bit, but still great throughout. I think that the only thing that stands in recent memory to me is the Butler-Duke game from about 3 years back now,
Yep.
right before we actually came into college, so our senior year of high school. Wow, weird. But no, I think that game, just because it came down to the wire, you needed this game. If it wanted to be maybe the best of the decade, per se, I think it needed to come down to the wire. Not necessarily a buzzer beater, but an attempt at one and keep it close, because at the end there, Louisville pulled away, made it like a 7-point game.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it was close throughout, but I just thought, the first half, it was just spectacular. You got some kid you'd never heard of, Spike, who goes crazy and gets a bunch of Twitter followers in the middle of the game, and he's hitting threes, and he hasn't scored more than 7 points throughout the entire season, and then he gets 17 in the first half, and then Louisville comes back. Probably my favorite part of the whole game might have been the Montrezl Harrell dunk that kind of capped Louisville's comeback in the first half. And then local roots, we had Luke Hancock, who went to George Mason's from Roanoke. He led the charge for Louisville in the first half. So just in general, it was a really well-played game, and it was fast. That's why we liked it, because it reminded you of an NBA game. It wasn't a 50-49 bludgeon that UConn Butler was a few years ago.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you that it wasn't the best of the decade, but I'm going to disagree with you with the one that I prefer, because as good as that Duke Butler game was, I think I prefer that 2008 Kansas-Memphis
I figured that's where you're
variety.
going.
I loved that one with Mario Chalmers' last-second shot. Sure, there were a whole lot of missed free throws involved with that one, but to me, I think when you look at it in more of a historical perspective, Bill Self, John Calipari, at the time, both going for their first championship ever. And really, when you look at what happened to that Memphis program for the next few years after that, it just sort of crumbled, once all the Derrick Rose SAT funny business came out. I really think that that's probably way more meaningful if you're just looking historically. Because this game, really, in terms of, history, yeah, there were good moments of it. You mentioned Hancock. Well, one of the first times that we've ever had a bench player win Most Outstanding Player.
Crazy.
And that's certainly bizarre. It's good to see Michigan back in the Final Four, but who outside of the Pitino family and maybe Louisville fans care if Rick Pitino has another ring on his finger? I know I certainly don't. I'm a little predisposed to dislike the guy in his stupid white suits just because I watched him as an enemy so frequently while I rooted for Pitt. So I'm sort of biased. It was still a really great game. I certainly enjoyed watching it, but give me 2008, I think, historically.
I think that the reason I tend to go away from this game and 2008 is because mistakes can sort of sour a game, and so, like you said, with the free throws there, it makes for a great game. Obviously, it made for a great finish, but it kind of sours the game. The refereeing in this one, you have that Trey Burke block, which is probably one of the greatest moments of the entire tournament, and they take that away. That's killer for me as well. But in general, I think that you have to go to that 2010 game just because if Hayward makes that, it's probably known as the greatest NCAA tournament championship ever.
Yeah.
So I think that has to be at least in the conversation for the decade if he misses.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Very David and Goliath, because who's bigger than Duke? And at the time, we had no idea who Butler was. So I can absolutely see it, but give me Derrick Rose any day.
Sounds good. Let's stay with college basketball, sort of. Now that the NCAA tournament is over, the student athletes are beginning to declare for the draft. Cody Zeller, Victor Oladipo, Ben McLemore, kind of Russ Smith. He's wavering on that fact now. But among others to declare already, who would you take with the first pick in the draft?
Well, as much fun as it is to talk about, the first pick is kind of already decided and has been decided since good old Nerlens Noel stepped foot on the basketball court. I know the ACL injury is worrisome, but we're living in a universe where Adrian Peterson and RG3 walks off ACL tears like they're, pulled hamstring, maybe a bruised shin, I don't know. So I just don't think that you can look at that and think that that knocks him off. He played so well, as particularly defensively, rebounding, to the point where guys are going to see that and they're going to see another Anthony Davis. They're going to see a guy who can come in and anchor a team for years to come. So I love all of these guys, but Noel is number one. After him, that's where it gets a little murkier. I think that Ben McLemore is pretty much the consensus number two from everything I've been seeing. He's certainly got a great body. He's a great scoring guard, particularly in transition. He is a joy to watch. Shooting 42% from three-point land, that's something that you're not going to get every day. So I'm a little concerned how the transition from Bill Self's very structured offense will transfer a little into an NBA, which is, as we've learned, very, very much changing and evolving. But as for me, I'd say Ben McLemore is the safest bet out of all of those guys to be up at the very top of the draft.
The only reason why I go away from Noel is just because I didn't see enough from him when he was healthy. That screamed to me #1 pick, and that seemed to be. And then on top of that, he has the injury.
Yep.
So because of those two things, I go away from that. I am a big fan of McLemore as well. I think that a lot of times when college players get out of those constrictive offenses that these really great coaches put in place because it helps the system of their basketball team, I think a lot of times they break out of that, and halfway through the season they feel a lot better being on an NBA team. But you know what? For me, why not Trey Burke? If it's such a weak draft, why not? I know he's too small or whatever, but he can shoot the lights out from way deep. He's going to be fine at the NBA three-point line. He seems like he can control a tempo of a ball game. He can go up against taller defenders. I don't know. For me, I think since it's such a bad draft, you know he's not going to be LeBron James, but why not? That's just, I know it's kind of crazy and going out there, but that's the guy I felt like when I watched the NCAA tournament, there's not a guy that's better than him that I'm watching in this tournament.
Yeah, I get that. And I've talked about it before, and Oladipo is my guy very through and through.
Yeah, I like him too.
And with a guy like that, when you know that he's going to get to the next level and be able to guard any one of those three perimeter spots, whether it's the two guards or the small forward, that guy's going to bring defensive intensity every night. That's going to make you a starter in the league quicker than any of these other abilities will. And when you shoot 60% from the field and 44 from three, that's going to pop some eyes. He showed he can get better from sophomore to junior year. Maybe that just keeps on rolling. If I'm a team in like the 5 spot, which is where most people have Oladipo going, I'm thrilled. I don't want to go anywhere. I want Victor Oladipo.
I totally understand. I don't know if I can pick him first, but I love him at 5.
First is a reach when you only score like 14 points a game, but you know what? It wouldn't insult me all that much. All right, there are less than 10 games left in the NHL regular season, and the Washington Capitals are starting to heat up, are currently leading the Southeast Division in that 3rd seed. Do you think they make the playoffs? And if they do, can they do anything once they get there?
I do think they make the playoffs simply because that Southeast is the Southeast.
Horrible.
It is bad. They're 12-3, I believe, this year against the Southeast, so they've certainly benefited from playing against them. So, but for me, I think that this team goes as far as Alex Ovechkin goes, and lately he's been spectacular. He's now tied for the league lead in goals with Stamkos up at 26. He's scoring like he used to. He's transitioned to that right wing that Coach Adam Oates has put him in, and they look great. My thing with the Caps is that Ovechkin right now is kind of carrying the team, and the rest of it has gone down a little bit. They're going to need spectacular goaltending in the playoffs, and they're going to need other lines to step up if they're going to go anywhere. My biggest quip is they have to get healthy. I mean, like right now is on the table, Martin Erat, Joel Ward, all 3 of them are going to be playing tonight. You have to get healthy over the final 8 games or so if you want to do anything in the playoffs, because we've seen time and time again, if you're not healthy, you're not going to win. It's just a fact. You cannot get through that grueling Stanley Cup playoffs if you're not completely healthy, at least at the beginning.
Yeah, and we had a Pens topic in this space last week. So funny how we're talking about the Washington Capitals.
They are an important story right now in the NHL.
Sure,
they are.
Why not?
Go on NHL.com. There's like 10 stories on Ovechkin this week.
Yeah, that's what proves it.
Yeah, it does.
When you play the Southeast Division with Tampa Bay, Carolina, Florida, those are the bottom 3 teams in the East. That's right. All of a sudden, 44 points is pretty easy to get to. So count me among the non-believers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Completely non-believer.
Here's the thing. The key word is, can they do anything once they get there? And in terms of getting there, I think absolutely you can do it. I think that, the only team really that can knock you out is Winnipeg. Winnipeg's there with their 42 points. Maybe they unseat you. They play an oddly similar schedule over their last 2 games. There are 10 games, I should say. The only real difference being that Washington has to play Boston. Winnipeg doesn't, so maybe that makes the difference. I personally don't think it will, especially because their one head-to-head matchup is in Washington. That's a long way for Winnipeg to go to win that one. If it was reversed, maybe I'd give it a thought. So, say the Capitals get in, say they get that undeserved 3rd seed. If it's Ottawa as it stands right now, I think they beat you. If it's either one of the New York teams, I think they beat you. Because those teams can actually play defense on occasion, unlike your beloved Washington Capitals. You mentioned goalies. I'm a Pens fan, trust me, I know. Offense does not win playoff games. We won the Stanley Cup when Marc-Andre Fleury played like a Stanley Cup goaltender. Much the same for you guys, so let's see it.
Okay, well, fair. This would be my only thing to say about this before we move on, because you know that I'm biased on this subject. But let's say they get that 3rd seed. Let's say it stays as it is right now. They play Ottawa. Ottawa's lost 5 games in a row. They haven't been able to score more than 2 goals in any of those games. They are on the decline, and honestly, I didn't even think that Ottawa team was going to make the playoffs as soon as they lost Carlson for the rest of the year. So I don't think they could. I think that the Capitals could win that with the home ice advantage. If they get the Islanders, they've had a little bit of troubles with the Islanders, but seriously, it's the Islanders. Like, would you really, honestly,
if you had
odds, if you had to put a bet on it, would you really feel good about putting a bet on the Islanders?
I wouldn't feel great, but here's the thing. Okay, second round. Congrats.
I know, you're right, and I'm not saying that. That's I would not pick the Capitals necessarily at this point to go any further than the second round, but I would like them. I think is if everything stays the same. Maybe not against New York just because they scare me and Lundqvist scares me, but in general. If you get to the second round, then who the heck knows what happens? Because we've never gone past it, so I don't know.
I think I know.
I don't know what happens when you get past the second round, so maybe
I'm pretty sure I know exactly what happens.
God, that's terrible. I'm never that mean to the Penguins. The Patriots, let's talk about the Patriots. The Patriots signed an offer sheet for restricted free agent Emmanuel Sanders, who, as you know, is currently a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you think that the Steelers will attempt to keep him? And what kind of difference could he make for the Patriots if he does end up going there?
Well, from everything what I've heard, and it's very murky, from all the reports I've heard, everything seems like the Steelers are going to match that offer. You know, if New England had to do this, you know, it definitely is not ideal for the Steelers. They are very cap-strapped at the moment. So it's not ideal that they're put in this position, but if they had to be, New England certainly did help them out by only choosing to sign him for 1 year, which really, you know, allows the Steelers to even still be in this conversation. If it was any more than that, they'd pretty much be out, and he would already be a Patriot as far as they were concerned. But New England was willing to give up a 3rd-round pick for just 1 year of Emmanuel Sanders, so they probably will keep him simply because otherwise it's Plaxico Burress or Jericho Cotchery starting opposite Antonio Brown. That might have sounded good back in like 2007, less great these days, so they're probably going to try and keep him around because otherwise they'd basically have to use one of those draft picks, maybe even that 3rd rounder they get, to draft a wide receiver to fill that spot. And as good as Kevin Colbert has been as developing, particularly offensive talent through the draft, I just don't know that they feel like they want to enter into this season with a complete unknown at that position.
Especially coming off a year where they don't make the playoffs. I'm sure they'd like some stability at that wide receiver spot. I thought it was pretty crafty of the Patriots to put this offer sheet down for $2.5 million when the Steelers at the moment have $1.9 million with salary cap left. So that to me is just funny because, you know, Bill Belichick and the Patriots, they're just
the devil.
But here's the thing. I'll answer that aspect of, because that's more your territory than Pittsburgh, but I'll answer if the Patriots do get him. And I do think it makes a big help because it gives them a downfield threat that they haven't had since Straight Cash on Me and Randy Moss in 2007. And I think that makes a big difference because it allows Brady to make the throws underneath that he likes to make. Amendola can go deep, but I'm sure they'd like him to play a similar role to what Welker played. And if Gronkowski is hurt possibly for the beginning of the year, they really do need someone to stretch the field because that's what they've missed. They've been able to complete the short stuff, but you've seen in the playoffs the last few years when they have faltered, it's because going deep has been their struggle and they haven't been able to stretch it, and teams have been able to crowd the box and keep it close even without a running game. And really make it tough on Tom Brady because they know they don't have to cover 25 yards, 30 yards down the field. If they got Sanders, I think that actually would make a pretty big difference for their team. So just in terms of that, I think it would be a good signing for the Pats.
Yeah, it's a smart move by them. If the Steelers, you know, maybe hadn't screwed up their cap, they could be in the position to do the same to the Patriots. But we're here. And honestly, the way that I look at it is I think that people are really, you know, thinking that the Steelers have already entered rebuilding mode. I've seen a lot of people that say we should just take the pick, they should take the money, and they should try and, you know, get new talent in there. To me, I think the Steelers see the AFC North as a division that is eminently winnable. You know, the defending champs are there. The defending champs are there, but how many players have they lost? Could have Super Bowl hangover. The Bengals can't get out of their own way. We've learned that over and over. Last I checked, the Browns are still a Cleveland team, so that kind of rules them out. Yeah, so I don't see why the Steelers should be so willing to just throw in the towel. Who's to say they couldn't win that division or even get a wild card with Sanders in that second starting spot? I'm very ambivalent. I don't know what I want them to do. I'm certainly glad I don't have to make that decision. All right, we're going to move into Pick'em. We're going to start things off acknowledging that Joey did actually win a week. So we're 4-1. Yeah, still got a bit of a lead, however. So we'll start things off with the Chicago Bulls going to visit Miami Heat.
The Bulls ended the Miami Heat streak before a couple weeks back, and Miami hasn't played their big three together in what seems like since that game.
Yep.
But for me, I think that if there's a game that Miami wants to win before the regular season ends, it's going to be that one. So you know what? I'm going to go with the Heat.
Yeah, they made us look awful foolish because we sat here and sung the Heat's praises, and then they went and beat them. So I'm a little bitter about that. It's worth noting that Luol Deng might not play. I know there's some questions over, LeBron and Wade. I say one of them makes it. I say they want revenge. Give me Miami.
All right, Golden State at Los Angeles Lakers.
A shockingly meaningful one for the Lakers, trying to stave off the Jazz. They have just one game ahead of them right now. I think that this is going to be a fun game. They're at 6th and 9th, respectively, in offense, so it could be up and down. I just like Golden State's defense and rebounding, believe it or not. I never thought I'd say that. A little bit better than the Lakers, so I will take the Warriors.
I think that LA needs it more, and I said a week ago, I believe, that the Lakers were going to get that A spot over the Jazz, so I'm not going to waver from that now. I will go with LA.
Fair enough. Well, we said it before. We love the Ducks and the Kings on this podcast, on this show. Anaheim's visiting the Kings.
Yeah, you've heard how I feel about the Kings in the past. I still feel that way, and I'm going to keep going with the Kings forever, I guess. Forever. So I'm going to go with Los Angeles again.
Burned me before. I feel
that's
obligated to jump off the bandwagon. I know it was only a 4-3 loss, but Mighty Ducks.
Oh, wow. All right. Sounds good. 2 different so far. We've got baseball on Saturday. Atlanta, who's got Tim Hudson on the mound, and the Nationals, who have Strasburg on the mound.
Yeah, once again, I'm forced to pick against Steven Strasburg. I don't know how this keeps happening. It worked out for me last time around. It worked out for me last time around, however. But Tim Hudson's been great so far. He's only allowed 4 runs in his 2 starts. Who's to say he won't do it again? Atlanta's playing pretty well. Give me the Braves.
In the past, Hudson has been quite good against the Nationals, but last year it seemed like Washington figured him out. I don't see Strasburg losing 2 starts in a row, so I'm going to go with Strauss.
All right, finally we've got Tampa Bay with Jeremy Hellickson at Boston with Clay Buchholz.
Hellickson's been a bit of a disappointment so far, along with Tampa Bay just in general. And the Red Sox are leading the division kind of oddly up there at the moment, and Buchholz has been pretty good for them, but Hellickson's on my fantasy team, so I'm going to go with Tampa Bay.
I'm so sorry. His ERA is over 6. I normally love the Rays, but, 3 home runs in 2 games. That is not typical of him. Maybe he gets back to form. I'll play it safe and go with Buchholz. His ERA is under 1 at the moment, and take the Sox.
All right, 4 different.
Yeah,
should be an
we're going
intriguing
for it all
weekend. I like it. All right, let's go to quick hits before we get out of here. Now Jay-Z is selling his net share so that he can represent NBA players. What is he? Wow, what a question that I just had. What a script I wrote over here.
Yeah,
the point is, what do you think about this?
I say, why be an agent when you can be an owner? I don't think you get free seats as an agent. I love Jay, but I don't understand this one. Do your thing.
If Jeezy's paying LeBron, I'm paying Dwayne Wade. Obviously, Jay-Z wants to earn his money back for when he was paying Dwayne Wade, and he'd like Dwayne Wade to give him some money. I think this is a smart business decision.
Okay, sure. The other night, the Rockets defeated the Suns because of Jermaine O'Neal's buzzer-beating goaltend. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Who writes that?
If you haven't seen this, it is hilarious. That's a great line. The best part is the James Harden interview afterwards, in which he cannot stop himself from laughing at Jermaine O'Neal for this boneheaded move.
Just one more reason. The Suns are currently 33.5 games out of first place right now.
Oh, my God. Last year, Penn State athletic donations dropped after the Sandusky incident, but donations specifically for football went up $2.1 million from the year before. Come on, that's crazy.
They clearly love good old B.O.B. because when your initials make a whole new name of their own, give that man some money.
People love football, and people are crazy. So that's pretty much it.
Exceptionally true. Carmelo Anthony has taken over the #1 spot on the jersey sales list, supplanting one LeBron James. Are you surprised?
Yes, I'm surprised that the greatest player of our generation who scores passes and plays defense doesn't have the highest selling jersey. I'm serious. That's a serious statement. I'm surprised.
I couldn't agree more. Did these people stop watching when Carmelo was the MVP candidate? And, did they stop when LeBron started redefining the game of basketball?
All right, RG3's former Baylor teammate, Ike Williams, has been invited to the Redskins rookie camp. Williams described RG3 and himself as Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. He also said, quote, "I told Robin already, whenever you work out, I work out. Whenever you go throw, I'll catch. If you go take a poop, I'll flush." Interesting.
That's beyond Pippen right there. I'd say that's a true friend. I bet as much as Scotty loved Michael, they weren't making bathroom trips together, so you go, Ike.
Poop is a funny word. Thanks for watching and listening on this week. We'll be back next week.